What's going on, everyone? My name's Tsunamix, and today I'm going to be showing you how to install the brand new FFNx driver for Final Fantasy VII using 7th Heaven. Now, this driver can be used with any PC version of Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VIII, but I personally have not used it for any of the other versions or FF8, so today I'm only going to be showing you how to use it with 7th Heaven specifically on FF7. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to open up 7th Heaven and show you that currently I am using the original driver that comes with 7th Heaven. And while I'm doing it, while I'm installing it, straight after that I'll be configuring it and showing you what the options do, and I'll be trying to convince you that it's worth downloading. So I'll put a timestamp in the description skipping to that part where I just explain what it is and go through the options. So you don't need to sit and watch me install it before deciding if you actually want to use it at all. But right now, I'm going to go into the game driver, and you can see here that I'm running the game in 1280 by 720. So I'm going to click save and play, and the game should open in a smaller window than my desktop. There we go. I'm going to close it. Now we'll change it to 1920 by 1080. And we're going to save and play. And just as a proof of concept, you've seen now that I made a change in that driver, and it did affect my game. So you know that I'm using the correct driver right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you now how to install the FFNx driver. Just going to interrupt the video here for a second. Turns out I went straight into how to install and didn't show you how to download the damn thing. So that's what I'm going to do now. If you go into your browser here, I will remove these tabs, and I'll get rid of this one as well, just so I can show you the fresh start. If you Google Quim FFNx driver, the second link here will be the correct one, next generation driver with native Steam support. This is FFNx. This link will be in the description, so you can keep up to date with actually what's going on, and at the same time, what you want to do is go to project URL, which is right here, the very first link. And then I'm going to scroll down to Canary versus latest release here. Canary being a nightly version, untested, new features but potentially buggy. Latest release being stable and is the safest one. So I'm going to click this. This link here will also be in the description, so you can skip all of that crap. And the one that you're going to want is the 1998 version. I know that you're probably using Steam, and you're going to be tempted to download that one, but it's the 1998 one. You have to get that one if you're using 7th Heaven, because the way 7th Heaven works is that it converts the game back to the 98 version to allow mods to actually work. And that is why you don't get achievements on Steam anymore. So yeah, there's an answer to that. Very, very asked question. But yes, download this top one, the 1998 version. With that said, on with the video. So the first thing is, I'm going to unzip it to its own folder here. And I'm going to open this folder and stick it over on the right. I'm then going to open another file explorer, and I'll stick it on the left. Okay. So the very first thing that you want to do is, you're going to want to go to where your 7th Heaven is installed. For me personally, that is in my C drive and 7th Heaven. If you don't know where yours is installed, another way you can do it, which is nice and easy, if I close this again, I have 7th Heaven as a shortcut on my desktop. If you do as well, or you have it somewhere else, you can right-click it and open file location, and it'll take you to where it's installed. Once you get there, we're going to go to Resources and Game Driver, and here you'll find a file named 7h_game driver. We're going to rename this file to _7h_game driver, which is just stopping 7th Heaven being able to read it, because it's named wrong, it can't find it anymore, as opposed to just deleting it and removing the chance that we could ever go back afterwards. So just remember that we've done this, and if you ever want to go back to the 7th Heaven driver afterwards, you can, just by reverting these changes. The next thing that we want to do is we want to go to where our Final Fantasy VII is installed, which for me is right here, I have it on the side, which is in my eDrive, Steam apps, Steam, Common, blah blah blah, you know. Wherever your Steam games tend to be located, and I have my FF7 right here. So the next thing I'm going to do is the same thing that we just did, but with this one right here. Now if you don't have this, then that's totally fine. Don't even worry about it. you can just ignore this step entirely. Then I'm going to do the same thing and just stick an underscore there as well. And the next thing that we want to do is we're going to grab all of the FFNx files, except for copying.txt, because we don't need that. And I'm going to copy them, and I'm going to paste them over into my game folder. And it should ask me to replace files, which it does. Yours may not. If it doesn't ask to replace, it's totally fine. It'll still work. Nothing changes. If it does ask you to replace files, click yes, replace them. It's exactly the same. The only reason mine is asking me to replace is because I failed at recording this video 3 times already, and I probably forgot to remove something in these texts and shaders folders. But that is now done. We don't need that folder open anymore, so we just have the main FF7 folder. Now, one of the files we named over is named FFNx.dll, which now needs to be the file that it reads, which was previously 7th Heaven GameDriver.dll. So I'm going to copy the name of this file, and I'm going to make FFNx that name. But I'm going to remove the underscore at the start, so now 7th Heaven can see that file and thinks that that file is that file, basically. So FFNx is now fully installed. But what we want to do before that, before running the game and showing it, is we want to configure it. Now, if you remember, the way that we configured it previously, also if the screen goes black, it's just because it's asking me about administrator privileges, and for whatever reason OBS doesn't like to record that. But yes, in 7th Heaven previously, we went onto the game driver tab here, and we would make any changes to the game on these 3 tabs. But now we don't do that. So I'm going to close out 7th Heaven. Instead of using that tab, what you're going to do is we have right here ffnx.cfg. CFG standing for configuration. This is now what you'll use to make any changes to the driver. We're going to right click it and we're going to edit it with Notepad++. If you don't have Notepad++, that's totally fine. Just normal Notepad will also work. It might look slightly different, perhaps, maybe, I'm not sure. But it will work the same nevertheless. Now, the first thing to note is each line has a hashtag at the start of that line. If you make any changes to any of the lines, you must remove the hashtag at the start of the line that you edited for it to take effect. Otherwise, it will be considered as a note and not a readable command line. It will just effectively ignore it. So the first option we have here is our display engine, the rendering backend. We have 4 choices that we can use here. We have OpenGL, Direct3D 11, which is DirectX 11, Vulkan, and Direct3D 12, which is DirectX 12. Yes, FF7 can be ran in DirectX 12. Not well right now, but it can. As you see here, Vulkan and DX12, it says tech preview, not recommended. They've not been fully integrated yet. You know, they're not. Just don't do it. Do it for testing purposes and for the sake of having fun, but not recommended. For me personally, I use Direct3D 11. I have no particular reason for it. It's just I know that the game originally ran in OpenGL, so now I'm using DirectX 11 just because I can. It's not slow, it doesn't lag, it doesn't crash, so I can at least safely say to you that DX11, it works fine. It works fine, so, yeah. And then I'm going to delete the hashtag at the start of the line. Now, I don't want to play in full screen, so I'm not going to change that. My resolution, I do, however, want to change, so we're going to be playing this in 1920 by 1080. Our internal resolution scale, which effectively is... So, for example, my game can only run in 1920 by 1080, because that is the resolution that I'm running my screen at right now. If I made it any bigger, the window would be too big and I won't be able to see all the game. The internal resolution scale, however, will take the contents of that window. So I can run the window in 1920 by 1080, but the internal resolution of the game could be 4K if you wanted it to be. It will then get downscaled again, but I don't exactly know how it helps, but as far as I'm aware, it makes it look better because you're making the resolution higher. So, you know, just mess with it, I guess, do some testing. For me personally, 5 is the highest that my PC will actually allow me to run it right now. I think that's based on the mods that I currently have active. but 5's pretty high, so it's going to be 5 times the size of 1920 by 1080, I think. It says scale. I don't know if it's times. I don't know. I'm rambling. The next option is we have preserve aspect, which is the, if it says yes, that will play the game in 4:3. If you change it to no, it will play in 16:9, which is widescreen. I'm just going to keep mine on 4:3 for the time being. We also have VSync, which I'll turn on. We have the refresh rate, which I'm not too bothered about. We have linear filtering, which I personally always have as yes. The description here does say, please note some things look slightly better with this on, but a lot of textures just lose their detail. Now, again, I'm not the technical brain behind any of this. I don't actually know what linear filtering does, but I'm a modder of this game myself. I've made a lot of 3D models for this game, and anytime I've made a 3D model, I've always turned on linear filtering for said model. Because from what I've noticed is, if you have a red pixel, a bright red pixel, right next to a bright blue pixel, there's obviously a visual difference, like you're gonna see it. Granted, we're zoomed out a lot, but you'll get the idea. Whereas with linear filtering on, it will actually smooth them so that the middle section will blend better. Now, I don't know if it's pixel, like, if 2 pixels are next to each other, it probably won't smooth those 2 pixels. But if you have a gradient going on, like skin tone on your character model, for example, like from the upper arm to the lower arm, that's a good distance, there's a lot of pixels between them, it'll blend it and it'll be nice and smooth instead of sharp edges. From what I can tell, that's what I've always seen it do from my personal experience, and I've always said yes because it looked significantly better. So I recommend it, but do let me know in the comments if you notice anything is bad about it, or even if you just know what linear filtering actually does and you can explain it to an idiot like myself. I'm asking layman's terms here. Don't link a wiki page because I won't understand a word it says. Give me the layman's terms. The next thing we have here is Anti-Aliasing, which is a brand new feature for FFNx. It was never in FF7 before, and it's going to be phenomenal. So I'm going to remove the hashtag, and I'm going to change this to 16, which is the highest possible at this point in time. Anti-aliasing, effectively what it's going to do is, FF7 originally, if you saw a diagonal line, you'll notice that it looked more like a very tiny staircase. You could see the pixels go up and then right and then up and then right and then up and then right, and it was supposed to be a diagonal line, you know, it just looks like a mini staircase. But with anti-aliasing on, it's going to do its best to remove the staircase look and just make it a nice straight diagonal line. And it looks fantastic. It's phenomenal. Definitely use it. And then we have Anisotropic. I don't actually know what this does. Feel free to let me know. But it says it's for higher textures, high resolution textures and overall rendering, which sounds like exactly what I want, so I'm gonna turn it on. There's loads of other features here for audio and some other modding options. I haven't personally messed with the audio settings. I also haven't messed with anything FF8, and then there's modding options, which you guys won't really need to mess with. So that's basically it for this. So I'm going to Control S to save this. I'm going to close it. The next thing we want to do is we have FFNx.reg, which is the registry file. You'll want to double click this, the screen will go black. I'm going to click yes on the administrator thing. It's going to say to you that it can unintentionally change, delete values, blah blah blah. There's a warning. It's only asking you that because you're adding a line to the registry of Windows. Click yes, it's fine. It's totally fine, and it should come up saying it's been successfully added. So there we go. FFNx is 100% installed and configured. I'm now going to boot up 7th Heaven, and just to show you that it is installed, I'm going to go back into this game driver. I'm going to change my resolution back down to 1280 by 960. Yes. Save. Now, if the game is not in 1280 by 960, then you know that it's running the FFNx driver instead. So I'm going to click play. And you can see that it is, in fact, 1920 by 1080. I will load up a save file, just to see it working. So we'll go to the last train here. And you can see that my game is running, and it's running fine. So I'll explain a few features about this now. I'll probably have to do a few before and afters here to explain things to you. But that's fine. If you've got the time to sit around and watch the video, I've got the time to make the video. But a few of the features that this comes with. Now the first one, and I know you're gonna love this. I'm not going to be able to have evidence of this by any means, but if I click... No, I don't even need to show you. How many of you have played this game and you're pissed off about the fact that your controller doesn't work? Or that your controller works, but you can't use your D-pad? D-pad being the 4 little arrow keys instead of using the analog stick. Well, that ain't a problem no more. That problem is gone. FFNx will allow you to use your D-pad on an Xbox controller and a PlayStation controller. For me personally, I'm using an Xbox controller. I've installed no drivers, no third-party software. I have done nothing at all. You just plug it in and it works. Simple as that. I can't vouch for the PS4 control. I know the D-pad does work. I don't know if you need like DS4 Windows or something like that to actually get it to play. Not 100% sure. Again, in the comments, do let me know. I can then add it to a pinned comment at the top, so everybody can see, and these questions are automatically answered in the future. But yes, your controller will just work flawlessly, and the D-pad will work, so you won't click defend and change every time you go down by accident anymore. The next awesome feature is one that I will show you. A lot of people have been asking about this, and this isn't so much a fix, per se. It's more of a... easier to tolerate. So if I load my Sector 7 Slums save here, you'll see that my game is centered. There's a thin black bar at the top and a thin black bar at the bottom. I should also be able to get into a fight, I believe. If I go to the train graveyard, there should be battles. I'm pretty sure there's battles in the train graveyard at this point in time, but the battle screen will also be full screen now instead of being like having those same bars at the top and the bottom. The battles will now be totally full screen. Just want to see if I can get a fight to prove it. I'm also not certain if I think I may have a mod on to stop random encounters. Let's have a look. So in here I have tweaks and no random battles. I do not have it on. Perfect. Which leads me on to my next thing. I've tabbed out of the game. Still hear the music, right? The game has not been interrupted because I tabbed out of it. That's a new feature as well. Oh, nice battle. There we go. Perfect. It's just handing me what I need. So you'll see there that the battle is totally full screen. It is hitting the top of the screen and the bottom of the screen. Which I'm assuming previously it didn't. I don't remember that ever happening, honestly, but it says in the description of FFNx that this is a new feature, so I'm just going to believe him. But yes, you're able to tab out and the music will still play. I'm also going to play again and click New Game and show you that you can also tab out during movies. Previously, if you tabbed out during a movie, the audio would die for the rest of that movie. So I'm going to wait for it to actually get into where there's music, as opposed to just these stars, the little sound effects. But yeah, previously you would tab out, and then you'd tab back in, and it would lose all sound for the rest of that movie, and it would just be weird. But now that is no longer a problem, again. Which is an awesome feature too. Especially if you're streaming and you tab out and the music stops, and it's like, my stream's quiet now, I need to put a song on YouTube or something, you don't have to do that anymore. You just leave the game running in the background, you tab out, and it's fine. It's totally fine, it just fills in that little space. And I've ran out of things to say during, like, waiting for this to finish. Oh, it's such a long cutscene. Also, movies are centered too. It's a little harder to notice here because it's dark. But there's a thin black bar at the bottom, as you can see just on Aerith's elbow there, and there's a thin black bar at the top as well, instead of it being a huge black bar at the top. But now, the music's playing. If I tab out, music is still playing. And you can actually see in my taskbar here, which is kind of transparent. Do it again. there were colors moving around. There you go. You can see that it's still playing. Nothing's been interrupted by me tabbing out, and it's fantastic. So that is the next feature that you may appreciate. The next feature on the list is a whole new world of mods. Now this is exciting. My explanation of this is probably going to suck, but I would do my best. I have a mod at the bottom here called Field Textures from the Quim catalog. And inside this, we have the Rimarco HD, and we have SYW version 4 by Satsuki. Personally, I use SYW version 4. I think it's absolutely light years ahead of Rimarco, currently at least. The way that these used to work, and yes, I say used to work, is that they were all PNG files, as you'd expect, right? All of the fields are PNG files. Textures for magic, a lot of different files in the game with PNG files. But now with the FFNx driver, we've moved from PNG files to this one here, the DDS. We are now on the .dds extension instead of PNG, and it is significantly better. Not only does the quality of it increase, it's faster. The load times are, well, not necessarily the load times per se, but to give a brief description of how this works, how the game driver and the engine runs these textures, is if, for example, you were on the first screen of the train, and you move to the second screen of the train. It's going to load all of the textures that is required for the second screen as they are needed. You then go back to the first screen, and it's going to load all of those textures. If you go back to the second screen a second time, it's going to reload all of those textures. Whereas the DDS variants actually stay in your memory. So, if the same scenario was to play, and you leave the second screen to get to the first screen, it'll load the textures for the first screen. But when you go back onto the second screen, it will in fact load so much faster, because it's already loaded those textures once. It didn't forget them, it didn't unload them, they're already stored, and it already has them loaded. Like, it just plays. It's phenomenal. So your game will run faster between loading screens of places you've already visited, or anytime you get into a fight. Your character models, enemy models, depending on what mods you use, of course, if there are textures specifically involved in them. A lot of the mods we currently have right now aren't texture related, they're polygon painted, like Chaos or Nino Styles will, and the Cetra project will. Project Omnislash, if that's on PC yet, I'm not sure. I think the Cetra project is probably the only one right now that will hugely benefit from that. But I don't feel that I don't think that one is in DDS just yet. But I'm sure they'll update it at some point. What other features do we have? So this is why I left these pages open. So first of all, I will have a link in the description for downloading it. This probably should have been 10 minutes ago in the video. You'll come to the FFNx page and you've got the first link right here, project URL. And inside this URL, you're going to scroll all the way down here, and you'll find Canary versus latest release. A little bit of an explanation about what this is latest release means that TrueOdin, the creator, has said, yes, this is done. It is a new version. Here you go, everybody, enjoy. Whereas the Canary is, I've got a few new features in, they're untested, they might be a little bit buggy, but here you go as an early access. So just be wary. Canary will have better features, but may be buggy. So do use it at your own risk. But if you go into the latest release, you'll then get the newest version of FFNx, and you'll always want to use the 1998 version. If you're using 7th Heaven, not the Steam version, I know you're using the Steam version, but you need to use the 1998 version, because 7th Heaven, when you run it, converts Final Fantasy VII back to 98. It's not the Steam version anymore, that's why achievements don't work. So you have to use the 98 version. And that's the same page that I have open here. Okay, so I'm going to look through, and I'm going to find exactly what other features there are. I'm going to at least try and explain the ones that I understand a little bit. I've told you about the DDS, I've told you about the anti-aliasing and the anisotropic filtering. I didn't personally know what it did. I've told you about the OpenGL, DX11, DX12, and Vulkan. The new rendering engine, which is, I believe, what allows you to tab out and tab back in again. But it also says here that the rendering stack does also support HDR rendering, which is going to be fantastic. I don't know if we're using this properly yet, but some mods will come out eventually and it'll be unbelievable. So the RAM has been increased to 4 gigs instead of 2. I believe the original driver only allowed us to use 2 gigs of texture memory. We're up to 4 now. So your crashes will be far less. Far less. And it's going to be unbelievable. We also have the DPI stuff, so if you're using a 4K monitor with upscaling, you don't have to worry about messing around with your graphics card or anything like that. The driver will just do it all for you, which is phenomenal. The new input, yep, we've got this. The vertical field centering, which I showed you, the thin black bar at the top and the bottom instead of a big black bar at the bottom. Full screen battles, as he said, as I showed you there. Vertical centering for the hand cursor in the menu. So whenever the finger pointer is pointing towards an option in the menu, like item, magic, materia, equip, etc., it'll actually be centered now automatically instead of slightly off-centered. If that ever bugged you before, just know that it's done. The movies, tabbing out, I showed you as well. And music you can tab out, absolutely fine. And then there's some other features for FF8. But that is pretty much it, in fact. The last thing I do want to do is I want to show you, so I'm going to delete the FFNx one. I'm going to go back to the original, just to show you the difference. Resources, game driver, we'll get rid of this. Okay, so now we're back on the original 7th Heaven driver. Go into the driver, make sure it's 1920 by 1080. Nope, not that one. Okay, now if I do the same thing again, I'll show you. If I tab out of the movie, that didn't work. I did click save, right? I'm not crazy. I changed this to 1920 by 1080. I clicked save. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. I'll find out in post. Click play. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a new game, and then I'll tab out during the movie. And you'll see that it'll lose sound. Also, you see right now, the thick black bar at the bottom instead of the half and half. If I tab out, music's gone. If I tab in, it stays dead silent. There's nothing. But I do have the skip movies on, so if I Control S, you can see there, like, the thick black bar at the bottom, it's annoying. And tabbing out, you know, it's more annoying than you thought it was, right? Now that you've experienced it, it's most definitely more annoying than you probably thought it was. But that seems to be everything. I've showed you just about everything that I can think of, at least all of the features that I use, and it's so much better. It also has multiple language support, so that's cool too. But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed what you've seen. I will leave a link in the description for this page, so you can get on there. I'll also leave a link in the description for our Discord, which has its own FFNx section. So if you do have questions about it, you can come in and ask TrueOdin directly, or the rest of the community members that do use FFNx. If you have any issues, they'll be able to help you fix them, or if you have any suggestions, perhaps, just anything, just pop into the Discord, meet the creator. Heck, even if you come in just to say thank you and then leave again. You know, just let him know that you're using it, and that you appreciate his work. You know, as a mod creator myself, I know that that can feel fantastic, and, you know, it doesn't happen enough. So definitely consider it, or just leave a post on here. Either way, you can come to the bottom and make a post way down here in the little box. But hopefully that helped everybody. Be sure to like the video if this did help you. I didn't walk into this pre-planned, pre-scripted or anything like that, so I probably fucked up somewhere, but I wanted it to be genuine. If any bugs were going to pop up, I wanted those bugs to be shown, and I would show you how I fixed them, but as you've seen, there were no bugs at all, and it just worked. But that is it. Thank you so much for watching, if you are still around at this point of the video. Hopefully you do decide to use FFNx. Be sure to let me know in the comments as well if you do move over to FFNx. And in that same comment, tell everybody. I know that everybody else is going to look through the comments on their problems and reasons as to why they should use this. Go down there and say, I've decided to use FFNx because of, and then tell me why it's better. Not even me, but the other people in the comments section. The more questions and stuff, and the reasons that you give and answer in the comments section, the less other people will have to ask in the comments for those same answers. They can just find your comment, and your comment will get likes. But yeah, alright, that's it. I've waffled on enough. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Hopefully you do move over, and I'll see you in the next video.